Welcome to the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas, and we begin. Bombshell trade in the National Hockey League. Jack Eichel traded from the Sabres to the Golden Knights. No, I'm kidding. I don't give a crap about that. The Brooklyn Nets have won 3 straight games. They beat the Atlanta Hawks on Wednesday night, 117-108. Mike, this team has won 3 in a row. Things are finally looking positive. What do you make of this Brooklyn Nets team over the course of the past 3 games, and especially last night against the Atlanta Hawks team that probably could have gone to the finals last year?
Yeah, I thought what the Nets did was beyond impressive. Defensively is what really stood out to me. The combination of Bembry and Brown, they don't do a lot offensively for you, but when those two are on the court together defensively, they have the ability to muck things up and force you to do things you don't want to do offensively. And with a 24-second shot clock, as soon as you get out of that first option and have to rely on options 2, 3, and 4, there's just not a lot of time to operate. So it throws an offense in a pickle. And then on the other side of the ball for the Nets, Kevin Durant is unbelievable. He's shooting 58% from the floor and 60+% on pull-up jump shots off the dribble, which is the most impossible shot to stop when you happen to be 7 feet tall and shoot at that clip. So the Nets are far from a final product. James Harden still worries me. He's not in shape. His hamstring injury happened in May. It is now November. Unless you tear your hamstring, which I don't believe he did, it should not take that long to recover. But I do think you're seeing the formula of how the Nets are going to win as currently constructed, with James Harden being at whatever state of situation he's in without Kyrie, and with Kevin Durant being, once again, the ultimate alpha when it comes to putting anyone around him, regardless, me, you, Steph Curry, like, it doesn't matter who's around him. This dude is going to get 30 points and shoot efficiently and make everyone else better. I like how Steve Nash has handled the situation. I like how he's finally incorporated some role guys into the mix. I love Patty Mills. We'll talk about that in a sec, but I absolutely love Patty Mills. LaMarcus Aldridge has been phenomenal. But last night against the Hawks, it was Bembry and Brown and their energy, especially in that third quarter run, that completely changed the complexion of the game, Frank. And I think those two are not going to give you that every night. But if you can get one of them to contribute that level of energy and defensive effort, it's going to be a difficult thing for opposing teams to overcome.
So start with Bembry. Have you ever heard of Bembry before this season? I had never heard. Yeah. I didn't know who that guy was.
But he's always been a high energy guy. He went to Temple. I liked him coming out of college, but he never really developed as an offensive game.
Well, he was a game high plus 18 last night for the Nets. He played 15 minutes, scored 8 points, and I mean he was that boost of energy that just I think just energizes the rest of the group. I've been very impressed with him for sure. But back to Harden, I don't know what's going on. I mean, you think you just attribute that to him being out of shape? But I remember I've been telling people I was at the last great James Harden game. It was Game 5 against the Celtics when they clinched. He had a 30-point triple double. He was for my money, he was the best player in the NBA. And of all the players, Giannis, whoever you want to throw in there, no one was playing at a higher level at that point than James Harden. And then obviously we all know what happened in the first 10 seconds of the Bucks game 1, the hamstrings thing, and he's never been the same. Bill Simmons, as you alluded to, said that he's not in shape, and it's clear that he is unable to really drive past anybody. He's been just basically shooting threes, and that's pretty much been the offense he's been contributing. What would you say your level is? Is he finished, or is this just him working his way back into shape and understanding, like, hey, last year I came back, I was just, there was no load management type. Maybe Steve Nash got through to him. Hey, like, take it easy. Don't run like a lunatic around the court for the whole season. Like, pick your spots. Is it a case of that, or is this a case of James Harden age and the explosiveness just isn't there anymore?
No, I'm not super concerned. I'm a couple points here. One, with a hamstring injury, as someone who survived a hamstring injury before, like myself, the only thing you can do is rest. And I'm not sure how severe his injury was. He played through it last year in the playoffs and was not the same player, but was capable of playing and at least contributing in some capacity. So this offseason, you could look at maybe he just rested the whole offseason to recover, and that's why he's out of shape now. He has historically come into seasons out of shape. James Harden, you go back to last year in Houston, talking to guys.
Well, that's an exception, though.
I'm not saying that's not the only time. Harden has always come into this season a little out of shape and then worked his way into shape throughout the season. That's just kind of been his MO for the last decade in Houston. So I think he's gotten better. Even look at, I'm going to use last year as an example, but it's not the only instance. even when he got to the Nets, he wasn't the same player he was a month and a half into his tenure with Brooklyn because he kind of worked himself into game shape. And obviously last year he wanted out of Houston. He purposely came into camp a little overweight, but just look at him. He does not look like the same player he was at the end of last season physically. Now you see him in the game. I think the rule changes have hindered his ability a tiny bit. But as you alluded to a second ago, Frank, there was a legitimate argument to be made that James Harden should have been the MVP of the portion of the season he played with Brooklyn. He was that good for that team.
It's not an argument. He was. If he didn't get hurt, he would have. The Nets would have been the 1 seed, and he would have won MVP. And it's not a question.
So I don't believe that in the span of 5 months, he went from being arguably the best player in the league to a guy who can't get past anybody. Like, you don't lose your athleticism and your explosiveness that quickly, even with some sort of injury. So my gut tells me it's just him kind of working himself back into shape and adjusting to these new rules. And with him being out of shape, he's relying more on getting those silly foul calls that the refs aren't calling, which adds on to the fact that he can't blow past people because he's maybe a little heavier than he'd like to be. So I think it's just a bad combination early, especially aesthetically, but I'm not worried about Harden when push comes to shove. I think in a month, 2-3 weeks, get that range, we're going to see him look a lot more fit. I mean, he looks a little heavy. I mean, he looks a little heavy.
It was worse last year, though. It was worse last year, but he still played great.
Yeah, and he, I'm not James Harden, so I don't know how much that hamstring is hindering him or how much he really was able to work throughout the offseason, because the only way to recover from a hamstring injury is to get off your legs and rest. So I do think it's a combination of he's not as explosive because he's still working back from injury. He's relying on the refs giving him these foul calls he's been accustomed to for the last 8 years, and now they're not blowing their whistle, so it just looks extra bad. So that's my take. I'm not smashing the panic button. It's probably the 2 out of 10.
All right. I mean, we'll see. The other guy that I've been hearing about from Bill Simmons was Blake Griffin. Is he washing your mind? Is he completely like? I mean, not that he was like supposed to be this great player when when the Nets first signed him off the scrap heap, but is he like? Is there nothing left in the tank for Blake Griffin? I mean, he draws a couple of charges a game. He shot 2 of 9 from the field against the Hawks on Wednesday. Is he done? I mean, are the days of Blake Griffin being like I mean, they're wanting him out there still. I don't imagine that stopping.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just depends on what your expectation from Blake is. If you expect him to be anywhere near Clippers Blake or anywhere near peak Pistons Blake, that's not the player he is anymore. Speaking of injuries with Harden, I mean, Griffin, I believe, has had 3 knee surgeries. And when you're an elite athlete and athleticism is that big of a portion of your game like it was for Griffin, and then you don't have that, you have to adapt. And I think Blake has adapted, I would say, more gracefully than most former stars into role players, because he's not trying to do too much. Blake goes out there and does exactly what Steve Nash and the Nets front office asks him to do. So in my mind, no, he's not washed, because he's doing exactly what this team needs him to do, which is hustle his butt off, make the extra pass. If you're open, make a shot. I'd love to see him make an extra shot or two, go 4 of 9, not 2 of 9. But he's doing the little things, and they don't need him to score. They don't need him to be a major creator on offense. They just need him to kind of be out there, play good defense, rebound, be tough, and be the kind of the linchpin, the glue guy, which I think he's doing. So yeah, he's washed in comparison to the old Blake Griffin, but I don't think anyone in Brooklyn expected the old Blake Griffin to come when it's all about expectations.
So Blake Griffin, if you were to guess, what is he shooting from the field and what is he shooting from 3%? Give me a percentage.
I honestly don't know, so I'm going to guess 38 from the field and 21 from 3.
27% from the field, 16% from 3.
I mean, that's horrific. That's horrific.
But luckily for the Nets, LaMarcus Aldridge has been an absolutely incredible, picking up exactly where he left off before he had to retire last season and then came back. But I do want to see this dude I do want to see Day'Ron Sharpe. I think that I saw him play briefly at the end of the Pistons game the other night, and I mean, he's athletic. He can rebound. I want to see give that guy some minutes. The Nets have been very weird with Cam Thomas has barely played. Sharpe has barely played. They're being very, I don't know if they're scared of the rookies or they're not ready yet, but I'd like to see the infusion of those young guys, those first round picks, get on the court and see what they could do. So Kyrie Irving.
Can I do one more thing on the Nets real quick? One more thing on the Nets.
Sure.
Could we become a Patty Mills podcast?
Listen, I like Patty Mills, but
I love him.
I mean, the Nets are 5-3. Like, I'm not. He's been a really solid player, but I'm not here like drooling over Patty Mills yet. There's so many other things that are going on right now that are occupying my mind that I can't allow myself to do that. But speaking of Kyrie Irving, he's got company now with Aaron Rodgers, by the way. What do you think he's doing? Just how do you think he's spending his days? As what is he just sitting in his apartment like smoking weed and playing video games? Or campaigning from what does he do? What do you think a day in the life of Kyrie Irving is like right now? What is he doing? Just what could he possibly be doing?
I think I have to answer. I have no idea. I think he's staying in shape. I think he's working out. I still think he's preparing to play at some point this season, contrary to what his stance is at the moment. I do think he'll be ready to come in whenever either he gets traded and or the Nets allow him back to be with the team. I have a hard time believing a guy like that, even if he is wired so differently from everyone else in the NBA, could just relax and not stay in shape. But I think there might be a lot of weed smoking. There might be a lot of hanging out. He might be writing a novel. Like I don't know. He could be writing erotic fan fiction for Vampire Diaries. Like, I have absolutely no idea, Frank. You could tell me he's becoming the next Bobby Flay. You could tell me he's becoming the next great crocheter, or he's learning how to play cricket and or, learning how to play the cello. I have absolutely no idea how he's spending his time. I just know that if I was in his shoes, no matter what else I did outside of basketball, I would still make sure that whatever my number is called or whatever my time to return to that team is, basketball is still the priority. It's still what pays the bills.
I'm just hoping that this new mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, once he takes office in January, lifts that mandate, Kyrie Irving comes back, and we could just go from there. That's they pretty much. I can't believe that it's political elections or Kyrie Irving is a talking point in political. I just can't believe that we reached that point. But moving on, so the New York Football Jets are back, baby. We have Mike White lit it up against Cincinnati Bengals. Was the leading passer in the NFL in Week 8. Now he gets a second crack at a really, really tough Colts defense here on Thursday night. Mike, I'm so excited for the Jets. That was the most competent Jets performance by a quarterback since Ryan Fitzpatrick against the Patriots in 2015. Yeah. He took what the defense gave him. He made the plays he had to make. And what really stood out to me though was the way the players were talking about him after the game. Ty Johnson in the press conference that's Mike effing White. That's Mike effing White. I haven't heard in my lifetime a Jets player talk about their quarterback like that. And then Michael Carter was he sees it from practice from him all the time. He wasn't surprised in the least. And I wasn't. And once I heard that, it's holy crap. These guys, they clearly see what he's doing in practice, and they saw it translate in the game. And there's a sense of belief in that locker room right now that I don't know if it was there with Zach Wilson. I don't know. I don't know. Listen, they're going to lose 38-3 against the Colts. There's no doubt in my mind. Mike and the Mike White hype train is going to end on Thursday, and that'll be that. But I'm excited. I have to say I'm excited, and I'm really skeptical about the future of Zach Wilson as a legitimate NFL quarterback. He's small. He makes terrible decisions, and the only trait people seem to point to is that he's elusive, and he's got a great arm. But how many quarterbacks? I mean, that's basically, besides Tom Brady, basically every quarterback in the NFL. If it was all about arm talent, Jamarcus Russell would have 8 MVPs and 5 Super Bowls. It's not what it's about. And I don't know. I'm just really hoping that Mike White could just be the savior of the Jets. And you draw back the parallels to the 2001 when Mo Lewis knocked out Bledsoe. They put Brady in, and the rest is history. Maybe the Patriots knock out Zach Wilson. The Jets put in Mike White, and the rest is history. But that's obviously very, very far-fetched, and it can all end out here on Thursday. So we'll see what happens here. But that's where I stand on Mike White. I love him. He pumps up my teammates, and love it.
I wanted to come on the podcast, Frankel, and tell you to shut up. But you know what? I am right there with you. Mike White is not the future of the Jets, but he is the current savior of this franchise. And by that, I mean he's just good enough to win you 2 or 3 more games, to knock you out of a prime draft pick position.
Hang on. I'm at the point in my Jets fandom life where I don't get excited about draft picks. When the Jets have a high draft pick, I just assume that they're going to screw it up. So don't try to like use that. Oh, you're calling yourself a draft pick. I don't want to hear it because they'll screw it up. They will screw it up. All right, enough. Move on. Your next point.
Fair.
That's a stupid.
I watched the entire Jets. I was in Austin with my parents on Sunday, and we were at a sports bar and they had all the games on, and I kept finding myself get fixated to this Bengals-Jets game. And we're going to ignore the terrible call at the end that negated Cincinnati to have a chance to tie the game. We won't even talk about that because it's irrelevant. We're going to talk about the fact that Mike White looked really stinking good. And outside of the 2 interceptions, which, early on, first start, jitters, whatever, the Duke completed 31 of 38 passes, threw for 405 yards, and this is a defense that just 1 week ago had shut down Lamar Jackson. I know they're completely different stylistic quarterbacks, Jackson and White, but this defense came into this contest with the utmost confidence. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick and say maybe Cincinnati didn't respect this guy. They overlooked him. They said, hey, we just took down the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. What is this guy going to do? And all the credit goes to Mike White and the Jets and Saleh and his staff for finding a way to come out and beat the Bengals. No one saw it coming. And I think what you said about the teammates kind of responding to Mike White is something of value because there's something. I'm just thinking how to word this properly. I don't think this is the writing on the wall for Zach Wilson. I think he's shown enough early that you don't know what you got. He could be good. He could be terrible.
Yeah, we have no idea. Yeah,
it's too early to tell.
I say it's leaning towards the bad side, though. So keep going.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't looked great. And what Mike White did last Sunday was better than anything Zach Wilson's done this year. So take that for what it's worth. But I do think it's something to be said about Mike White or any backup, that when you get your chance, you capitalize on it. Because how many times do you see a backup come in, Geno Smith with the Seahawks or, Trevor Simeon's on the other side of it with the Saints?
All right, this past week in the NFL was unlike any week in the history of the league. Like, and no other week does Trevor Simeon outduel Tom Brady. Geno Smith outduels Trevor Lawrence, and you have Mike White outdoing Joe Burrow. It was a very wonky week in the NFL. It's like
so. With that being said, though, you see so many times backups come in and they can't live up to that moment. And they know it's coming. They know this is their chance, and the situation's too big for them. And Mike White didn't let that happen. Mike White came out as an underdog, punched the Bengals in the mouth, and when they punched back, he threw up the double bird and said, nah, it ain't happening. This is my day. And I think that gumption to kind of take the situation and grab it by the balls and say, no one's ruining this for me. This is my day. This is my moment. Says a lot about the mental fortitude and the makeup of a quarterback and whether or not he turns out to be the future of the Jets, whether or not he turns out to be a solid quarterback in the NFL or a lifelong backup. I just think having that mentality and the ability to capitalize on your one shot speaks volumes to the Jets and especially volumes to Mike White. And that's why the teammates love him. And it's like, I'll give you an example for us, Frank. Let's say back in college when we're doing our radio show, I stepped out and you needed Jacob Lefkowitz to step in, or you needed someone else to step in and you thought he did a freaking awesome job. Like, you'd be hyped for him. And that's kind of the emotion you get as a teammate when someone else gets their shot and succeeds. And I don't want to say I'm proud of the Jets, but Frank, I'm really proud of the Jets. Like, me and my dad are sitting there watching this game and no one else cares. It's just us who care about this Jets game. And we were like, you know what? Good for the Jets. Like, I don't know. The Jets made me happy for the first time in a decade on Sunday, Frank. And now I know how you feel to an extent.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see after this game against the Colts. The Jets have lost 6 straight.
Do you think they win tonight?
I think they lose 38-10. But that's
you're expecting a regression from Mike White.
I mean, the Colts. I mean, they've had a few days here to watch some film on him. Almost like they have worked in the Jets' favor that they go to a game against the Bengals, coming off the highest of highs of being the Ravens, who people thought were probably may have been going to the Super Bowl in the AFC, and then they go out and they completely over. All the Jets are playing the backup quarterback. They don't have Corey Davis. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath. And then Mike White just goes out there, and I mean, we'll see. If I will say though, this is like, in terms of like excitement for like a game, like I haven't been like this like this looking most like, and much anticipation is the word I was looking. I haven't had this much anticipation for a Jet game. I don't know, probably since Darnold's first career start. Like it's been a really, really long time. I mean, but it's silly. It's like so dumb, but whatever. They're just
I'm with you, because the Giants are the same way, and it's a different frustration for the Giants than it is with the Jets. But when you get that taste of success, it pulls you right back in, Frank. And I know the Giants stink, and we'll talk about them in a second. You know the Jets stink, but as soon as you get that little taste of success, football has a weird way of reeling you back in so fast, and you just have to see what happens next. And I'm shooting an A&M volleyball game tonight that starts at 7. Kickoff for the Jets is 7:30. I'm hoping volleyball sweeps them clean so I can get back and watch Mike White. Like, I'm very excited to see how Mike White performs tonight.
The headline in the New York Post on Friday morning will be "Back to Reality." There's no question in my mind. Mike White like on the ground with like his hands on his helmet. That's what the headline in the New York Post. I can't wait to run.
So what's the headline if Mike White comes out and throws for 350 and 2 more touchdowns?
QB controversy in Florham Park. I mean that's what it's going to be because
not white supremacy.
Oh no, you can't do that. Come on. But another interesting angle is that Robert Saleh, the head coach, didn't commit to Zach Wilson starting when he comes back. So like, I don't know, something's going on here, but it'll all sort itself out here against the Colts later this evening. Let's go to Aaron Rodgers real quick. I was completely unaware of the soundbite that he had when he said he was immunized when they asked him if he was vaccinated. I mean, my like thoughts and like fandom of Aaron Rodgers has taken so many swings over the past like 8 months. When the draft happened and he like the news came out that he was like had no interest in playing for the Packers ever again, and they were gonna have to like trade him. Like I was like, come on, dude! Like the day of the draft, and then I saw him play. I was like, oh, he's back. He's having fun. And now this crap happens with the whole vaccination thing. And clearly the Packers were like, you don't want to get vaccinated? We'll accommodate you in any capacity, whatever it takes. And now he tests positive, and it's a whole crap show. It's just, I almost want the league to reschedule the game because I want to see Rodgers for Mahomes. We've never seen it, and we may never see it. We may never see it again. And if I were the league, I would push the game back or cancel it until Rodgers can play in it because this stinks for everybody involved. And I'm honestly like I'm really hurt by it. I really wanted to see Rodgers against Mahomes, and I can't believe that we're not going to get to see it. Terrible.
I bet on the Packers too before the news. And
did you hedge?
Nah, I just don't trust the Chiefs, and I have no idea it wasn't a big bet, so I think I'm gonna just stick with it and pray. But yeah, it stinks, and I didn't know about the immunized. What's the word? Immunized. I wasn't aware of that soundbite either. It's a shame that Rodgers is kind of holding the Packers hostage in a way, where he's not going to get vaccinated. They're still going to bend over backwards to accommodate him because they're trying to make him as happy as possible in case he's a change of heart. It seemed like he was having fun this season. It seemed like maybe the tide was turning on his feelings towards Green Bay. And maybe that is because they've been so accommodating with him and letting him kind of break NFL protocols to live his best life, for lack of a better word. But the NFL won't reschedule the game, Frank, but I'm right there with you. I'm so disappointed this is not Rodgers, Mahomes, the struggling Chiefs, the surging Packers in KC. Like this had the makings of a classic game. And in my opinion, they're the two best quarterbacks, the two most talented quarterbacks ever. Like those that I've seen, at least in my day, those are the two most talented quarterbacks ever. So to see them kind of duel would have been phenomenal. I see you thinking like, who's more talented? Like,
well, Peyton.
Was he more? He was better, but was he more talented? Like he didn't have the arm strength of these two or the ability to move in the pocket. Like that's what I mean. Like the two most creative. They could do more.
I got you. I hear your point.
So I just think that like that's something that as fans we're gonna get cheated out of, and I don't feel good about that.
So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out here. But it would be interesting to see if Jordan Love goes out there and completely lights it up, and then have to see what the reaction in Green Bay is and with the Packers front office, because they know Rodgers is going to leave sooner rather than later. Although, like, I've started to change my mind on that as how well he was playing. But if Jordan Love goes out there and throws like 6 touchdown passes and then he beats Patrick Mahomes, I don't know. It would be very interesting to see what the fallout of that would be in Green Bay. But Odell Beckham Jr., I don't know what the hell's going on between him and the Browns. Did you see the Instagram video that Odell Beckham Sr. put out showing all like
I have not yet, but I can't wait to. It's on my bucket list of things to watch.
It's 11 and a half minutes long. It's literally like all the times Beckham's been wide open down the field and Baker's like just not thrown it or missed them. It's pretty like staggering. How surprised are you that if I would have told you the day the Giants traded Odell Beckham to the Browns that that him and Baker Mayfield are going to have the worst completion percentage of any quarterback wide receiver duo in the league, what would you have said?
Say that one more time.
So on the day the Giants traded Odell Beckham to the Browns, I would have told you, hey, Mike, you know how this is going to work out. In a couple of years, you're going to see that this is the worst, in terms of completion percentage, the worst quarterback to wide receiver duo in the entire league. What would you have said?
I would have laughed because when he was on the Giants, it didn't matter who the quarterback was. He was the only guy that could get open, whether it was Eli or whoever else they sputtered out there after Eli in that year of chaos. Like, it didn't matter who was under center, just throw it to 13 and he was going to make something happen. And you watch him with Cleveland now, and whether or not it's intentional on the Browns kind of making him the third or fourth option on each route, or whether it's intentional on whoever's under center not looking his way, because it does appear that, yeah, he may be open, but that also may be the backside of, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's impossible to know the progression of the play. Maybe the backside may not be the read. You don't really know what the quarterback's looking for or what he's seeing. So it's just hard to me that he has fallen off. And the worst part, as a Giants fan, Frank, the worst part about this trade is, like, yeah, Odell's been terrible on Cleveland. The Giants got nothing for him. Like, it's not like the Giants got, like, as bad as Odell's been, I don't think you could say the Giants won the trade because they got nothing back. Like, nothing. Dexter Lawrence is the best thing they got to show back for him. And yeah, he's okay, but he's just okay. So, like, it was a bad player trade for bad picks that the Giants whiffed on. And that's what hurts the most, is that when the Giants traded Odell, I was devastated because I thought he was a generational player at receiver. And it turns out the Giants were right. Maybe he's not as good as we thought. But it turns out that the Giants couldn't get anything back. So even though they were right in trading him at the time, they botched the complete other side of the deal, and they have nothing to show for it.
I think this has a little Randy Moss Raiders feel to it. I feel like if he just can find his way out of Kansas City or Green Bay, he will turn back the clock so fast, will have no idea what hit you. I think he's still got all the ability in the world. He's just so checked out right now playing with Baker Mayfield.
I agree.
And
agree with that.
If he just gets a comp, like Randy Moss, like when he went to the Patriots, like I didn't think anything of it. I thought, he sucked with the Raiders. He's gonna suck with the Patriots. Not only that, and then he goes out and has the greatest freaking receiver season in history. I'm not saying Beckham's gonna be that, but you put him with a Rodgers or a Mahomes, there's no doubt that he will be top 15 fantasy receiver.
Yeah. No, I agree. He's definitely not. Well, I don't want to say definitely because injuries have played a role, but it doesn't appear that he's completely washed. It just appears that he's completely washed out of whatever Cleveland wants to do offensively. So I think he could go to another team. I think he could be successful. The Chiefs, I heard the Buccaneers, him and Brady have always had the utmost admiration for each other. So, add him to that wide receiver core.
Odell and the Buccaneers, there's just too that would just be over the top of too many mouths to feed with Brown and Evans and Godwin and Gronk. Like, how many?
I agree, but I'm just saying, like, he could go to a team and I think he would be successful. I just think whatever is going on in Cleveland, it's a lost cause. It's a lost cause.
So let's move on to we'll finish up here with the college football playoff rankings. We were doing a show. I was producing a show, and we were like, I was just waiting for the top 6 to be announced and didn't really expect any bombshells from 7 to 25, but we were waiting the top 6 to be announced, and all of a sudden we say number 8 is Oklahoma. And we were absolutely floored. I thought Oklahoma was, first of all, that I've never seen such staggering differences between the AP poll and the college football playoff poll. Because Oklahoma, 8th in the college football playoff poll, 4th in the AP poll. Then you have Cincinnati, number 2 in the AP poll, but 6th in the CFP. I mean, the amount of differences of philosophy that you're seeing between these two polls is honestly, it's shocking. I was floored to see Oklahoma at 8. I thought, obviously, they didn't look great with Rattler. But ever since Caleb Williams has come in and basically set the world on fire. He threw 6 touchdowns the other week, I believe, against Texas Tech. He looks like he might, unless this running back from Michigan State slows down, he might end up stealing the freaking Heisman. But I was just absolutely floored by what the committee came up with. Basically Cincinnati and Oklahoma Oklahoma stole the show there, but I was really left scratching my head, and I know it's all going to work itself out in the end, but right now it's just like, man, what the hell are they doing?
It makes no sense, Frank. I'll get to Oklahoma in a second. I want to start with Cincinnati. There is not a path for a non-Power 5 team to make this playoff.
I mean, there is. Not this year, but if you do want to make it, then you got to schedule the big dogs, and you got to beat them.
But Cincinnati did, though. They beat 2 Big Ten teams.
Notre Dame, and who else?
Indiana.
Oh, come on, Indiana's a joke. Don't get me started on that.
But they were a top 10 team last year. But listen, I'm just saying, and you can't predict what. And I'm pulling up their full schedule now. But I believe they beat 3 Power 5 teams in non-conference play, and went into Notre Dame, and won in South Bend,
right.
And Notre Dame's ranked 10th. So
I have no interest in seeing Cincinnati in the top 4. Zero. To me, they would just get pummeled by any of the other teams in there.
Listen, I don't think they're a top 4 team. I just think they should have been ranked in the top 4 in this poll.
But if you do that though, then there's basically no chance they fall out.
Yes, there is. No. You're looking at it wrong.
I'm looking at it right. I'm looking at it right.
No, but by putting them at 6, Frank, by putting them at 6, they have no chance to move up.
Yes, they do. If other teams lose, if Alabama loses to Georgia, if Ohio State loses one of these next few games to Michigan State or Michigan.
But that's fine, because then those teams should move down. I'm saying Cincinnati can't move up on its own now because they've already played the best games on their schedule.
Right,
now,
they don't control their own destiny is what you're saying.
What? Say it again?
Yeah, so they don't control their own destiny. I can tell you that.
But if you put them at 4 to start, you can make the case that other teams have leapfrogged them by having bigger wins later in the season. So Ohio State's behind them. Ohio State's in front of them now, but let's say Ohio State beats Michigan State. Oh, those are more impressive now than what Cincinnati has already accomplished. You can move them ahead. Cincinnati at 6 is a slap in the face to the whole premise that you have to schedule these teams. You only play 3 non-conference games, Frank. I'm not looking at the schedule now. They played Cincinnati, they played Notre Dame, and they played Indiana. It's a Big Ten team who finished ranked last season in Notre Dame. They smoked them both. Okay? Like you can't say, hey, we want you to play these non-conference games and then not count it. So I have no problem with Bama being 2. My issue with this whole ranking is Cincinnati being 6 to start because they can't move up. When I think if you put them at 3 or 4 to begin, you have all the leeway in the world to move teams ahead of them later for those quality wins without sacrificing the integrity of the system. Now for Oklahoma, they're ranked too low, but they've done absolutely nothing at the same time to make you think they should be higher. I mean, Oklahoma could seriously have 3 or 4 losses at this point in the season, and they found ways to pull out ugly wins, including Kansas, which took a miracle play that no one knew the rules on, which took an epic second half collapse from Texas. They should have lost to Tulane in week 1. So, yeah, if you're ranking it based on record, like the AP poll, yeah, they should be higher. But based off what you've seen with the eye test, yeah, 8 or 9 seems about right, man. And I would actually argue based on the eye test, they should be lower than that, despite the fact they haven't lost this season.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out here. So if I were to predict what the Final Four will look like at the end of the season, I'm telling you this. I think this is what it's going to look like. I think Alabama will beat Georgia in the SEC title game. So Alabama will be 1. They'll put Georgia 2 because that's just the way they think. I think Ohio State runs the table and they get 3. And I also think Oklahoma runs the table and they finish 4. So that knocks out Michigan State. That knocks out. I just want to make sure I'm reading the rankings right now. So in the college football playoff, damn it, I can't find it. But either way, those are my 4. What is your 4? How this is going to end?
It's the same 4, just a little different order. I think I agree with you that Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship. Bama gets 1. I think Ohio State would get the 2nd slot, just so it's not SEC. Georgia would get the 3rd spot, and then Oklahoma, only because the Big 12 is so bad, will run the table, and they'll end up getting in, even though they might be the worst team to get in. Even though I would be terrified to play them because Caleb Williams is really good. The rest of this team just hasn't been good this year. And the only reason I know that specifically, Frankel, is my boss Justin is the biggest diehard Oklahoma fan ever. And dealing with him on Saturdays with A&M games, going simultaneous with Oklahoma games is terrifying because his mind is focused strictly on the Sooners, and they have driven him absolutely crazy, which in turn drives me crazy.
The only fear I have of it not being that 4 is if Oregon runs the table, because they're 4 right now, and it just feels like I don't know why the committee's so like gung ho on Oregon, but it feels like
they have the win over Ohio State, but here's the thing: with Oregon being at 4, Ohio State at 5, like it's the head-to-head. Oregon has no more games against ranked teams. Like they have Ohio State can jump them with another win, which makes sense. You put Oregon ahead because they got the head-to-head, but you think Ohio State's better and they could surpass them. Same thing with Cincinnati. Even if you don't think Cincinnati's a top 4 team, you put them there so they give you pass, not so they have no path to move up. The committee's a joke. Even though, wait. Like, can we end on this, Frank?
Sure.
Do you think the playoffs should expand?
No, I like the
because
4.
I don't. I don't.
I
I'm a strict 4 guy.
I think 4 is the perfect number because it leads to debates, which I love. I love the debates, and if you expand it to 6, it's not as fun for me. It's not as fun for you. It's not as fun for the media. And you're putting teams like Cincinnati in who are just going to get absolutely bulldozed by whoever they play. So that's why 4 is the right number, because
I think there are typically 3 teams every year that can win the national championship. 3, sometimes 4.
This year it's Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State.
That's it. I don't think anyone else can win. And Oklahoma would be 3.5, but they have to play way better before I add them as an actual contender.
And we'll see here because they got 3 ranked teams coming up here. 3 like not pushover. So if they win like each of those games by double digits, then that'll
and then we'll have 4. And guess what? 4, not 8, not 12. Damn sure not 16.
Yeah, these people that want like more teams, like then you might as well just invite like Murray State in. Like college basketball is fun, but in the grand scheme of things, like once every like 15 years might be like a shocking team that makes it into the 4 that you weren't expecting. But in the grand scheme of things, like they're the haves and the have-nots, and that's usually what it comes down to. But that'll do it for this edition of the Lucas and Lucas podcast, as we look ahead to the Jets' 38-10 loss, Indianapolis Colts on Thursday night.